Indo, and that always leaves us with a lot to talk about, a lot to catch up on from the day in sports while keeping you up to date on everything that's going on as we do the show. Yes, I am the host with the most. As I mentioned, Justin Barbosa is our producer engineer working on the show out of Houston. Now you can do a retweet there, Justin. Much appreciated. As I came on the air tonight, the Nets were down 3 with the ball, 8 seconds left, home in Brooklyn, trying to steal one from the Sixers and make this a series again. I'm getting all excited for the final play, and what happens? They throw the ball away right to the 76ers, who run down to the other end and dunk it. Philadelphia beats Brooklyn 102-97. Joel Embiid gets the last laugh, although he might be hearing from the league thanks to a kick to the groin area of one of the Brooklyn Nets. And I'll tell you what, if I'm the Nets, I am screaming mad because you just saw Draymond Green get a flagrant 2 tossed from a game the other night. And tonight, Joel Embiid throws a kick to the groin. It misses, but that doesn't mean... It's like if somebody says, well, I tried to rob the bank and I failed. You shouldn't arrest me. Joel Embiid tried to kick Claxton for the Nets in the junk. He missed and didn't get thrown out of the game. You know, it's like, come on, man. And he doesn't get thrown out. Yeah, there's no standard way that the NBA treats these things. How they treat it in the aftermath will be interesting. Also, James Harden was thrown out of this game for a little hand jab to the groin of one of the Brooklyn Nets. He got thrown out. Didn't matter. Philadelphia wins anyway. They're up 3-0 in the series. And now we get ready for really the star of the show in the NBA tonight. And that's the Warriors and Kings. The Warriors are supposedly steaming mad right now. The Warriors are mad because Draymond Green got suspended. They were shocked. They couldn't believe it happened. Well, you know what? Go out there and win the damn game tonight. I don't want to hear the talk. I don't want to hear you got to beat the champs. Series doesn't start until the home team loses a game. I don't want to hear any of it. Go out there tonight and win the game. I'm tired of all the talk. Tired of Golden State talking. You were a mediocre basketball team all year. You were 9-30 on the road until you got 2 gimmies at the end of the year. You were great at home. Go home, win these 2 games, make it a series again. I don't think they're going to win the series. I thought game 2 was the nail in their coffin because I don't believe they can beat this Kings team 4 out of 5 games. Prove me wrong. Prove everybody wrong. That was an entertaining game, though, with the Nets and Sixers, I have to say. Right down to the final couple of seconds. So that's obviously what we're going to be watching tonight. Big news today, though. And look, I mean, this continues. The story of this playoffs isn't who's playing in these games. It's who's not playing in these games. And that just continues to be the theme that is pervasive throughout this NBA postseason, as early in this postseason as it may be. Because right now you're talking about a situation where you have a Clippers team that's already without Paul George, and now they're going to be without Kawhi Leonard for Game 3 of this series because of a sprained right knee. Apparently, Leonard aggravated his right knee during the Clippers' Game 1 win, played through it in Game 2, according to Adrian Wojnarowski of ESPN. And if that's the case, let me tell you something. This is the grossest negligence imaginable. If you are the LA Clippers and you had Kawhi Leonard, you got Game 1, and you knew Kawhi Leonard hurt his right knee in that Game 1 win. You've already come to Phoenix and done what you need to do. You got a game. For that team to then go and say, yeah, you know what, we're going to try to win game 2, even though Kawhi's got a bad knee and we're already without Paul George, that's just flat out stupid. It's grossly negligent to put Leonard out there on a bad knee, knowing his history, knowing how, frankly, fragile the guy is, knowing how fragile he is mentally playing on a bad knee. You've now put your team at risk of losing game 3, giving back home court advantage, and who knows about whether he could play Saturday. That's just a couple of days away, an early afternoon tip in Los Angeles. What was this team thinking? What was Ty Lue thinking? Paul George ain't walking through that door. And look, maybe they figure out a way. It's one game, right? I mean, we watched the Memphis Grizzlies beat the Lakers last night night before, I don't know. It all blends together. We watched the Memphis Grizzlies win game 2 without Ja Morant, without Steven Adams, without Brandon Clark, and a Lakers team that was fully healthy. So who's to say? Who's to say that the Clippers can't figure out a way to steal one game from, the Phoenix Suns at home, and then they get Paul George back on Saturday and all as well. But still, I say this all the time. This is something I trumpet over and over. The job of an owner is to put his general manager in a position to succeed. The job of a general manager is to put his head coach in a position to succeed. The job of a head coach is to put his players, his team, in position to succeed. That is, somebody's failed in that task, and it's probably Ty Lue if he made the decision, if he was the one that made the final call, to put Kawhi Leonard out on the court in that game. By the way, the Clippers this year, 3-9 without Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you were Phoenix tonight with blood in the water, so to speak, and you don't go out there and put the hammer down on the Clippers, well, then you got whatever you get coming to you. Because there is no excuse. No excuse. And I don't want to hear, well, anything can happen in one game. You're right. Anything can happen in one game. But it can't be this game. Phoenix has to go out there tonight and throttle the LA Clippers. This should not be a game. Don't let it get to the fourth quarter and be, a 4.5-point game where it's basically a toss-up and anything could happen. This is one of those nights where Kevin Durant, Chris Paul, Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton have to stand up and say, all right, we squash this thing now. No excuses. Win the game tonight. So we'll be keeping an eye on that with tip-off coming up in about 22 minutes. We got 2 late NBA playoff games. One will be on NBA TV. The other will be on TNT. We will have eyes on both of them as we go through the evening. Oh, we have a telephone number if you want to be a part of the show. 1-800-224-2004 from anywhere in America. 800-224-2004. You want to text the show from anywhere in the country. 888-670-8549. 888-670-8549 is the number on the text line. How Embiid did not get thrown out for this is just beyond me. He basically tried to kick Claxton in the junk and missed, and he doesn't get thrown out of the game. It's just beyond me. And then James Harden takes a cheap shot at a Nets player and doesn't get thrown out of the game either. Well, he gets thrown out of the game, actually. I take that back. He gets tossed. It is beyond me. It's absolutely beyond me. We'll see what the NBA does, though. I mean, it's too late now. Philly's up 3-0. Embiid should have been thrown out of the game on the spot when he tried to kick somebody in the junk. And because he wasn't, he's able to be out there on the floor late in the game, make some key plays, and Philadelphia gets a win. And I don't care how many points he scores, Embiid impacts the game in so many ways. A lot of people have lobbied for him to win the MVP. There shouldn't have to be any lobbying. The guy's had an amazing year. And yeah, you can make the argument for Jokic. You can make the argument for Giannis. I get all that. But those guys have won them before. And you can make the argument every year, that certain players could win every year. Embiid's earned it this year. Led the league in scoring. And again, he does so many things and impacts the game so many ways. Am I wrong? Is the Clippers game starting now? Do I have those backwards? No, I'm right. So Kings, Warriors will get started in a couple of minutes with Sacramento up 2-0 in that series. Phoenix and the Clippers will get started in about 20 minutes. And again, we'll keep you up to date on all of it. We will be joined in the first hour of the show tonight, our 2 for 1. So you'll hear him coming up in 20 minutes, and then you'll hear him in the final hour, is Mark Carrig. He is the deputy managing editor at The Athletic. The Oakland A's are leaving Oakland. Now it's official. And Mark Carrig wrote a great piece for The Athletic about it. We'll talk to him coming up in 20. We'll come back. Live scores, live betting, a whole bunch more. Just getting started on the Cash In. It's SportsMap Radio. What's going on? JB. Hey, there's my man Stan Van Gundy. Yeah. Yeah. I was just about to say something that I really shouldn't say on camera, so I'm going to mute my mic. Rolling along on this Thursday edition of the show. I mentioned it briefly at the top of the show, and it bothers me a lot to see what's going on with the Oakland A's as they're, basically their fate has been sealed. They're going to be on their way to Las Vegas in a few years. Rolling along on this Thursday edition of the show. I mentioned it briefly at the top of the show, and it bothers me a lot to see what's going on with the Oakland A's as they're, basically their fate has been sealed. They're going to be on their way to Las Vegas in a few New York, because that's how that works. Thoughts on this, and talk a little bit about Las Vegas.
Yeah,
And sort of the overview. How did we get to this point for people that don't understand how the A's could be leaving for Las Vegas? Good to have you with us. Let's talk about the A's leaving the city of Oakland for Las Vegas. It's very disconcerting news today. Mark Carrig, deputy managing editor at The Athletic, wrote a terrific piece on their app/website. Go and check it out there. Mark, try and give me the 20,000-foot view on how we got to where we are today.
Yeah, I think this is the culmination of a lot of years of bickering. This is an ownership group that has been looking for a better deal, which that's what they do. They want taxpayers to pay for their ballpark. They want all the perks. They want the city to kind of just, hand them a palace, basically, to go generate some money, which is what Las Vegas did. You've got a city that I think has, tried to meet those demands, but politics are what they are, and so priorities change, elected officials change, promises change. So you've had a bunch of that. It's difficult to build things in California, right? Like there's a lot of hurdles and challenges. So you've had some of that there too. So basically, it's you've had a team that's been trying to build a new ballpark for many, many years that hasn't been able to really meet that challenge. And I think part of the frustration here is, it's been a while since I feel like that's been a good faith effort. I think a lot of fans feel the same way. So, a lot of what I talk about in the piece is that it's almost kind of like expected and logical that they'd want to move. I think there's a lot of economic reasons for it and business reasons for it. But, they didn't have to spend the last, however many years basically tearing the team apart and blaming the fan base for their problems. I felt like that was sort of the worst part of this. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. It's a stadium dispute that's taken forever, and at the end, the fans got scapegoated.
How much of it ultimately, if you were to cast blame, and you may not want to do this, but I'll ask anyway, if you were to shift, percentages of the blame, is it 50-50? Is it the city? I mean, because some people will argue, look, they've lost the A's, but they've also lost the Raiders. They've also lost the Warriors. So some would argue that some of this has to be on the city as well.
Oh, of course. I think there's not one side to blame for anything. Certainly the city and the elected leaders of the region play a part in this, 100%. The San Francisco Giants play a part in this. 30 years ago, when the Giants were on the way out to Tampa, the Oakland A's ceded territorial rights in order to keep or help keep the Giants, because they had talked about building a ballpark potentially in San Jose. And to do that, they needed the A's blessing. They gave it to them for no compensation. Well, guess what? When the situations were reversed,
yep.
The Oakland A's could have used that territorial freedom, and the Giants didn't give it to them. So certainly that's a part of this. Elected leadership's a part of this. And of course, ownership's a part of this. I think they, again, were looking for the best deal, as all sports team owners are looking for. And obviously, a place like Las Vegas that is desperate for the cachet that a major league team would bring, they were obviously going, to pay top dollar to kind of pull out all the stops, and that's what they've done. Okay, they're giving the A's, the best deal that they were going to get. So that's business, that's pro sports, that's how it works. I don't think there's any dispute about that. People know why this went down. I think what I find particularly bothersome is this, outright effort to basically pin the blame on fans, to raise ticket prices, to gut the team, to let the stadium fall apart, and then for these folks to have the audacity to basically say, hey, look, we can't stay here. The fans don't turn out. It was just totally disingenuous. I think totally unnecessary, and it's what I feel the worst about, just watching it play out.
Mark Carrick, deputy managing editor at The Athletic, wrote a great piece on The Athletic's website. You could see it there on the Athletic app about the A's relocating to Las Vegas and sort of talking about some of the backstory about how this has all gone down over the last several years. I come at it from a different perspective, too, because I grew up in Connecticut, and we had one major league sports team. And now they have the Connecticut Sun, and think what you may of the WNBA. That is a major league team. But at the end of the day, I saw what happened in Hartford when the Whalers left. And it destroyed that city. The entire downtown area of Hartford, Connecticut died. People don't realize the impact. First the Raiders, then the Warriors, now the A's. This is going to have an enormous impact on the city of Oakland. And sometimes I just don't know if city leaders or people realize, or maybe they just don't care about how many lives are impacted by stuff like this. The parking attendants, the food vendors, the people setting up on the streets selling merch, all of that.
Yeah, I think that's, I was talking to some folks back home in the Bay Area about that very thing today. There's just a lot of people who, the franchise might move, but those jobs aren't moving, right? Like that's, you talk about the economic impact of a full major league season where you've got 81 home games, and For a lot of the history of the Oakland A's, guess what? They were making the playoffs a ton too. All right, so like these are real world things that just like everything else that gets mired in politics, right? Like it's you. Good luck trying to explain how these outcomes happen. All right, like you get competing interests, you get elections every couple of years that change the folks that are in charge of these things. The regions changed, right? Like there's a lot of things that sort of change and coalesce and lead to these. I will say this though too, like it never made sense for the A's to be in Oakland, truth be told. And I get into that in the piece too. Historically, it was sort of this odd situation where it just sort of happened. It's kind of a miracle they stuck around this long. So, there's on one side of it, it's really terrible because they've been in the city for so long. They've become a part of the Bay Area. They've become ingrained in the culture of the East Bay. Also, it's like they were sort of an aberration to begin with. And I feel like, if you've been connected with the team for any part of time, if you ever rooted for him or been around him or watched him, it's almost like you knew this day was coming at some point. You did. I find it unfortunate though that they did it in just about the most painful way possible, which is again drive fans away and then blame them for staying away. Right? This was on purpose. It's disingenuous, and it's the worst part of the whole deal.
Mark, I wonder what the next few years looks like, because they're not going to be ready for Vegas until, 27, I think? Like, I wonder what the next few years of this team as a lame duck team, and that's a long time to be a lame duck team. I don't know if I could remember a team being a lame duck team for, 3 or 4 years before. We've all kind of felt like they are anyway, but, to officially know that this team's gone in 3 or 4 years. And at the same time, wondering if Dave Kaval and John Fisher, if now that they know that Vegas is in their sights, they can't move to Vegas with a team that's craptastic when it gets there. They almost have to start building it now.
Yeah, I think the Coliseum lease, if I'm not mistaken, is expired after the 2025 season. So that's a 2-season gap of where does this team play? Well, just taking a guess here, the Oakland A's already have their AAA team in Las Vegas. They just built a ballpark that's, not even 5 years old in Summerlin, Nevada. All right. So I think they could do worse than to just pick up and move and play in that AAA ballpark until the real one is completed. It's probably what they should do given the fact that, you see what it is now before the announcement. I also say this in the call, Jason. This is the worst team I have ever watched right now. Like this baseball team, as constituted,
I'm with you. Yeah,
it's absolutely terrible. And like I've been watching ball since I was 7 years old. I've been covering this sport since 2008. There is not a worse baseball team I have ever seen take a major league field. They can't hit. They can't throw strikes. They're non-competitive. They've got 3 wins this year, and I, honest to God, don't even know how they got to that. All right, so they call up a pitching prospect last night that throws 100 miles an hour, and they still lose the game by 10 runs.
Yeah.
So like this is not just a bad team, folks. This is historically bad. They might be 62 Mets bad.
Yeah.
Okay, that's how bad these guys are. So you're going to get 800 people in the ballpark, just like in 1979.
Yep.
History repeats itself. The A's have been here before. Sadly, they have. They cut their front office to 2 people in 1979 under Charlie Finley. He was desperate to move the team, decided, you know what, I'm not going to sink a single penny into this club, cut pretty much everything to the bone, stopped marketing a club. They had 700 people in the stands for an A's Mariners game that year. Guess what? We've seen it before. We're going to see it again. Your question is, what's it going to look like? There it is.
Mark Carrick, deputy managing editor at The Athletic, wrote a great piece. It's up on The Athletic's website and on the app. Go and check it out. Mark, I appreciate it. Thanks on short notice tonight.
You got it. Thanks, Jason.
You might have heard me talk about it there in that conversation. We'll do that coming up on the other side. About the A's departure. We'll also update you. They're through one quarter with the Warriors and the Kings. We'll tell you about that next, too. All right. Rolling along on this 420 edition of the show. Yeah. See, it's legal in California. not that I really take advantage of it or do that sort of thing, but if you are one that likes to partake in 420 activities, happy 420. Guess we could say that. So I wanted to finish a thought on this situation of the A's leaving, because it's, anybody who's been in a city or a market that's lost team, people in Seattle, I know people in Seattle have been weighing in on this day. And they were, as a matter of fact, in the last few days, Seattle Sonic fans have been voicing their opinions and have been talking about how they miss the Sonics, and up until Sacramento won game 1 of this series, essentially you had Sonics fans saying, hey, we've won a postseason game more recently than the Sacramento Kings have. Now, obviously, that's come to an end. But there are certain cities that can appreciate, a select few that can appreciate what it's like to lose a major league franchise. But there's one city, and I mentioned it in the conversation with Mark. There's one city that has a unique distinction. And that was, well, there's two for that matter. One was the Quebec Nordiques. When they left for, I believe it was Colorado, if I'm not mistaken, they became the Avalanche. The Quebec Nordiques. Another is the Hartford Whalers, who left for Carolina and became the Hurricanes. And you might have heard me talking about in the conversation with Mark. There is a certain aspect of a city literally dying as a result of a major league team, especially when it's your last major league team leaving a market. And I lived through it in Hartford. I saw it in Hartford. I did afternoon drive in Hartford for 3 years, 2008, 2009, 2010, long after the Whalers were gone, by the way. But that city has only recently started to recover, 20 plus years, 25 years, 30 years. No, about 25 years. About 25 years after the Whalers left Hartford. Only now is the city of Hartford recovering, and it's because they have a AA minor league baseball team, which is, voted every year one of the best teams, one of the best ballparks, all of that, the Hartford Yard Goats, which has revitalized downtown because you're getting 70 home dates a year of, 10,000 plus people packing into a ballpark, paying concessions, paying street vendors, paying for parking, supporting the businesses around the area. It matters. It's important. And Oakland's about to discover and realize, and, there is plenty of blame to go towards the Oakland A's ownership. I mean, they just went and bought a parcel of land. I don't know what they paid for that land in Vegas. I don't really care. But they probably spent more on that piece of land, and they're certainly going to be pumping money into a brand new stadium, and they've put no money into their baseball team, which, despite the fact they play in a dump for a stadium, the reality is they did their best to do, sort of what the owner in the movie Major League did with the Indians, which was make them so bad, so unattractive and unappealing to people in Oakland that they wouldn't show up, and then they can blame the fans and say, hey, we're hightailing it out of here because we can't be financially solvent. We got to go to Las Vegas. Bye. And that is really the disgrace of all this. But, and Mark made a very good case for that. But it cannot be overlooked that the city of Oakland lost the Warriors, the Raiders, and the A's. And you can't, if you want to make the argument Oakland's a different situation, fine. But they lost all three teams, which tells me the leadership politically in that city did not give a damn about keeping professional sports there. Did not value it, didn't appreciate it, and now you've got nothing. You went from having 8 to 10 dates a year in the NFL, where you'd have 60,000 people in a stadium. You went from having 41 to 55 NBA games a year, 20,000 people in the arena supporting businesses, all of that. And 81 Major League Baseball games, and sometimes more, because the A's made it to the postseason a lot since 2004. You had all those dates, all those days for the local economy, all those nights for the local economy to have money pumped in. And again, I'll even say this. I live in a tourist town. I live in Palm Springs, California. Forget, Major League Sports. We don't really have any of that. They just put a AHL team here and built a 10,000-seat arena about 20 minutes away. And it does really well, and it's brand new, and it's shiny, and it's so everybody's going to support it for a few years till they get bored with it, and then they'll draw 5,000 fans a game like most AHL teams. But I can tell you that as somebody who lives in a town that is supported by tourism, what it means to businesses when a city dies, like during COVID. A place like Palm Springs, nobody was traveling. And for 2 years, there was no money being pumped into the local economy. Businesses closed, that sort of thing. Now it's recovered, and it's all great. But for the city of Oakland, where are they going to replace that revenue for those local businesses? Where are those businesses going to get 81 games of the Oakland A's, 41 to 55 games of the Golden State Warriors, all the Raider games? You're talking about 160 days a year where you had live sports in that area of Oakland, where the Coliseum was, where Oracle Arena still is. And it's gone now. And it's probably never coming back. There are very rare instances where, teams that lose major league teams get them back. Winnipeg, Washington, D.C., got the Nationals after the Senators were there. There are rare instances where it happens. Seattle will get a team again one day. But very rarely, when sports leave, do they ever come back. And if I were political leadership and if I were the media in Oakland, the first thing I would be hammering Oakland city leaders, the mayor, political officials, I would be hammering them to say, why should any business want to be in Oakland? Because you just told all those businesses around the Coliseum, you just told them, we don't care. That we could not figure out a way to coexist with the A's. And again, I get it. A lot of these teams hold cities hostage to get their cupcake deals for arenas and stadiums. We've all seen it. I get it. But at the end of the day, that's the deal with the devil you make when you choose to have professional sports in your backyard. You've got to find a way to make it work. And good politicians can negotiate. And the A's and the city of Oakland had forever to get this deal done. And they could not find a way to make it work. And it's a pox on both of their houses. All right, updating you on the playoff hockey. Seattle still leads Colorado 2-0. That's early in the second period. Winnipeg on top of Vegas 1-0. Both Seattle and Winnipeg have 1-0 series leads in those series. Golden State and Sacramento. That game right now, second quarter, 39-30. Golden State on top of Sacramento with 7:15 to play. In that second quarter. Phoenix and the Clippers, 12-10 Suns on top of the Clippers over on NBA TV, about 5:36 to go in the first. And again, if you're Phoenix tonight, you got to put the hammer down. You got to say enough's enough. They got no Kawhi, they got no Paul George. You have got to, I don't care if you win by, you should win by 20, but I don't care if you win by 1. You cannot lose this game tonight. Take the lesson from what just happened last night with the Lakers and Memphis. You cannot lose this game tonight if you're the Phoenix Suns. You cannot be complacent. It's going to have to be a Russell Westbrook game for the Suns, though. For the Clippers, though. I'll say it again. Another hour of the cash-in is right around the corner. Stay with us at SportsMap Radio. Say again. I actually would rather you put Mark Carrig and the stuff I said about the A's from the first hour, because the other stuff's a little too timely. All right. Segment 3, segment 4. Wake up call. So it's going to have to be a Westbrook night. Another hour of the show starts right now on SportsMap Radio and the SportsMap Radio app. I said tonight was going to have to be a Russell Westbrook night for the Clippers. The only way the Clippers win tonight is if it's a big Russell Westbrook night. It's going to have to be a special night. And Norman Powell's going to be a part. Norman Powell's 4 for 4 in the first 8 minutes of this game. He's got 9. So you're going to need Norman Powell. You're going to need Russell Westbrook. Nicholas Batum's going to have to hit some shots. I'll tell you, if Phoenix loses this game, they absolutely deserve to lose the series. Again, you have, as a head coach in Monty Williams, you have the perfect example sitting just 2 days ago, a day ago, with Memphis and the Lakers. You have the perfect textbook example to show your team about how, hey, just because a team is missing its star doesn't mean they can't win. Everybody would have picked the Lakers to win game 2 of that series. It was all tailor-made, set up for LA. And they lost that game in Memphis. And rather soundly. Then the Clippers, you make the foolish mistake of playing Kawhi Leonard in game 2, knowing he's aggravated his knee. When you've already gotten game 1 of the series, you could have sat him, got an extra couple of days of rest. Now you don't have him for game 3. You don't know if you're going to have him for game 4. If you are Phoenix, you have got to take advantage of this. This team is wounded to a degree that there are no excuses tonight. And I know everybody can say anything can happen in one game. This cannot be that game. Phoenix has got to put their stamp on this one. Clippers lead late first quarter, 20-16. We're keeping tabs on the Warriors and the Kings, 39-33. Warriors on top of Sacramento. And again, this one of the everybody's expecting, and I think the Warriors were 6.5-point favorites. And I said run and take Sacramento at 6.5 because I just don't think they're going to get blown out. This doesn't look like a team that's intimidated. Doesn't look like a team that is scared of the moment. And, this is a Warriors team that's extremely frustrated with what happened with Draymond Green. And we'll see what happens. 4 minutes to go in the second. Low-scoring game so far. Golden State leading Sacramento 41-33. And again, we'll continue to keep tabs on that. Coming up in about 25 minutes, Jake Brown will stop by the show, make his debut on the Cash-In. Executive producer of podcasts for the New York Post, host of the Amazing But True podcast about all things Mets. He does that with former Met Nelson Figueroa. We'll get some thoughts with him on the Max Scherzer 10-game suspension. And I said it last night on the show, and I'll say it again. Major League Baseball is basically declaring war on pitching. When you talk about the new rules for pitchers, the pitch clock is affecting them more than it's going to affect hitters. The whole thing with sticky substances, they started cracking down on that last year. Now you're seeing it this year again with teams cracking down on the sticky stuff as well. Umpires cracking down on it. Not being able to throw over more than 2 times, only X number of disengagements. All of these things are geared towards more offense. I said, Major League Baseball is doing to pitchers what the NFL has done to defense in the NFL. It's basically outlawing defense. And I understand why they're doing it in the NFL. I get it. In the name of player safety, I understand it. I think baseball's gone too far. I think, games that are 2 hours and 15 minutes is not giving fans their money's worth when you consider what some of these teams charge for tickets per game. Yes, I'm talking about the Mets and the Yankees, and I'm a diehard Yankee fan. If I go to a Yankee game and pay what I have to pay to go sit where I want to sit, and I'm only getting 2 hours and 15 minutes or 2 hours and 20 minutes and video game speed innings, it's like playing MLB 2K. It's crazy. So, anyway, we'll get into the Scherzer suspension of 10 games. He's going to appeal that suspension. 1-800-224-2004 is the telephone number if you want to call from anywhere in the country and weigh in on just about anything we're talking about tonight. 800-224-2004. You can also text the show. The Cash-In text line is open. It's just for you. 888-670-8549. 888-670-8549 is the number on that. Could the Jets, it would be the most Jets thing that's ever happened. It would be the most Jets thing that's ever happened. If we go through all this, the Jets go get Nathaniel Hackett after he's unceremoniously dismissed from the Denver Broncos. They go get every, Aaron Rodgers' pal, Alan Lazard, backup QBs. I mean, you name it. They have done everything to Aaron Rodgers-fy the New York Jets. And then imagine if he winds up with the San Francisco, well, I should call them the Santa Clara 49ers because they don't play in San Francisco anymore. And Santa Clara is really nowhere near San Francisco. Could you imagine if he winds up with the Santa Clara 49ers? I've always thought Santa Clara. I've always thought Santa Clara made sense, though. If you really think about, the landscape of where Aaron Rodgers is from, played his college football, Cal, Berkeley, the whole West Coast vibe, the 49ers always made the most sense for Rodgers. I mean, the team's obviously given up on Trey Lance. You got a sampling of Brock Purdy, and it was nice, but a guy who doesn't have a strong arm just had surgery on his arm. I mean, and Aaron Rodgers is sitting there. Now, I know the 49ers have issues in terms of what they could possibly give up in order to get Aaron Rodgers because they don't have a ton of draft capital. But at the same time, I am kind of shocked at the fact that it's taken this long for us to get to this point. And there's been a million different rumors about where Aaron Rodgers could wind up if it's not the Jets. Is it Tennessee? Would the Patriots swoop in at the last second? Tiki Barber made some interesting comments on his show with Brandon Tierney on a certain New York sports radio station. Craig Carton has talked about it as well over on FS1. All of this little simmering, it's not even like smoke coming out of this thing. It's just a little crinkling of flame starting to burgeon up under the leaves about Aaron Rodgers actually going to the 49ers as opposed to the Jets now has some validity, Tiki said on Wednesday. Yeesh. I mean, it really would be. The Jets should just fold up the franchise at that point. I mean... Can you imagine them having to go back to Zach Wilson? Oh, Zach, by the way, you're going to be our quarterback. No, maybe Matt Ryan will be their quarterback next year. Huh? Carson Wentz? Oh, man. Yeah, call Cam Newton. Cam Newton could be a starter for the Jets next year, right? I mean, how on earth? Listen to Tiki talk about this. It's pretty funny.
The Jets might be about to realize their worst nightmare ever. Ever. They haven't quite mortgaged their future because they haven't given anything away yet for Aaron Rodgers, but they've set themselves up with the idea that Aaron Rodgers is going to be their starting quarterback next year, which is going to give them a chance to get to the Super Bowl and do XYZ and yada, yada, yada. But there has been this little inkling of an alternative for Aaron Rodgers. As Brock Purdy is saying, he's not sure he's going to play. So if the 49ers move on from Trey Lance, the other presumptive starter, and they sign Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold's the starting quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers, who were in the NFC Championship game a year ago.
He would have been better than what they had last year.
Yeah, true.
In terms of Purdy going down, but I hear you.
The answer is hell no.
Okay.
So all of this little simmering is not even like smoke coming out of this thing. It's just a little crickling of flame starting to burgeon up underneath the leaves about Aaron Rodgers actually going to the 49ers as opposed to the Jets.
Oh, here we go.
Now has some validity. Because if the 49ers...
What are you doing to me?
Hold on. If the 49ers trade Trey Lance... And again, the clock is probably off on him because they like Brock Purdy better. If they trade Trey Lance and Brock Purdy isn't available to play this year because of UCL surgery, Sam Darnold is not. I promise you, is not starting for the 49ers. They will go get, and they're okay to mortgage their future because they don't care. They're not worried about losing their jobs. They've done it before. They've gotten to the championship game. They've gotten deep in the playoffs, right?
So, I mean, it's true. Everything he's saying has validity. And perhaps it's just the Packers being able to use the Niners as leverage. The same way everybody thought, well, the Jets could use Lamar Jackson as leverage in trying to sweeten the deal in their favor when it comes to dealing with the Packers to get Aaron Rodgers. The same goes for San Francisco. The same goes for Green Bay as it relates to this, because they could say, well, they can play the 49ers off the Jets and say, look, I mean, we could trade him to San Francisco. He may not want to go play in Tennessee. Aaron Rodgers, and people are like, well, would he want to play with Kyle Shanahan, somebody that headstrong, somebody who's going to want that much say in the offense? You make it work. Win a Super Bowl, win an MVP, right in your backyard if you're Aaron Rodgers. Sign him up. We're coming back with more of the cash in. Stay with us. Yeah. Fuck is that? Up 12 at the break. Shoot enough, you're going to make them. I am by no means a Mets fan. Anybody who knows this knows I listen to. I'm a Yankee fan. I'm not a Mets hater, though. There's usually this thing where New York Mets fans hate the Yankees, and the idea of a successful season is anyone where the Yankees don't win a World Series. Same thing with the Red Sox. I'm not like that. And not to disrespect Mets fans, but it's like punching down. To sit there. So Yankee fans aren't doing that. But for Mets fans, it's like, if the Mets, as long as the Yankees don't win the World Series, Mets fans are happy. I think that mentality is starting to change now because the Mets have become major players in free agency. They have the highest payroll in baseball by, like 65 or 70 million over the Yankees. So that mentality is starting to change. All that being said, I think this whole thing with Max Scherzer is insane. Him being suspended for 10 games by Major League Baseball. And look, appeals in these things rarely go the way of the player who's been suspended. But I'm hoping that cooler heads prevail, calmer minds prevail, common sense prevails, because we're at a point now in baseball where you can't just be a good pitcher. You have to be a superhuman pitcher in order to win. Because baseball's doing everything in its power to make it difficult for pitchers to outduel hitters. Now, it used to be good pitching will beat good hitting, right? Baseball doesn't want that. They don't want that. So they're doing whatever they can to artificially speed up the game of baseball and at the same time create more offense. By the way, I got news for you. Guys are still going to strike out a lot. You know, the whole thing with the three outcomes, the three certain outcomes of baseball, all of that stuff none of that's going to change by speeding up the game. You're going to have guys stealing more bases because you can't throw over as much. But great pitchers are still going to find ways to get guys out, I think. I think all these rules are going to impact those middle rung pitchers a lot more. Those middle of the road guys, the Jameson Tyones of the world, that third and fourth starter in your rotation, those are the guys that are going to be impacted, I think, more by all these rule changes. But Max Scherzer being suspended for 10 games for simply having rosin and sweat on his hand. And then, you get these umpires, we put our hands on his hand and it stuck so much we had to pull it apart. Like the guy had stickum on his hands. When Max Scherzer literally sat there and explained it, and unless you think Max Scherzer is some bold-faced liar, if you look at his spin rates, absolutely nothing has changed. So this idea that all of a sudden he went to go get, after all these years, Max Scherzer needs an advantage. Come on. Are you kidding me? It's just crazy. It's absolute nonsense. By the way, speaking of the Mets, in action tonight in San Francisco, Mets are playing pretty good baseball right now. Beating the Giants 5-2. Giants are a dumpster fire. After they missed out on Correa, after they missed out on Judge, and just kind of going with what they got, well, now it's 5-3 Mets, so Giants trying to claw their way back into that game. By the way, Fernando Tatis is back for the, I should say Fernando Tatis Jr., somebody might get confused. Fernando Tatis Jr. is back for the Padres tonight. End of 5, Padres and the D-backs are tied at 5. There's 3 games going on in baseball as we talk to you. Dodgers and Cubs are tied at 2, top of 9. We mentioned the Padres and the D-backs tied at 5, end of 5. And the Mets lead the Giants by a score of 5-3. We'll continue to keep tabs on that. We talked about NHL playoff hockey, and I was touting the Seattle Kraken up 2-0 early in the second against Colorado. Well, 5:10 left to go in the second period over on ESPN. Seattle and Colorado are tied at 2. So the Avalanche have struck back in that game, and now 4:31 to go in the second. 2-2 Seattle and Colorado, and a must-win for the Avalanche. They do not want to go back to Seattle down 0-2, where Climate Pledge Arena will be up for grabs when the Kraken get back there. I mentioned the fact that Palm Springs has a new AHL team. It's actually the AHL affiliate of the Seattle Kraken. And they were one of the top teams in the league. I think they had the second best record in all of the AHL. So, for what it's worth. Now, the sucky part about having good minor league teams is it's so, it's year to year. It's cyclical. If you live in a town with a great minor league team, you could have a championship team one year, and the next year they're terrible because all of those people go up to the major leagues or to the NHL. There's just there's no consistency when it comes to minor league baseball that way. Great minor league players, they're like meteors. They shoot through the sky and then they're gone. Burn up in the atmosphere. That's it. Houston, that's right. Thank you, Justin Barbosa, for that contribution to the program tonight. Houston used to have an AHL team. Isn't there talk about them potentially getting an NHL team, if I'm not mistaken? Well, they're trying to get a new stadium, new arena built out there. They're playing on like some college campus right now. That's a bit of a mess. Boy, that thing has been run so terribly. There's talk about Atlanta getting another NHL team. Didn't we just have a team there? Didn't the Thrashers were like 5 minutes ago, and they're going to lose a team. Now they're going to get a team back, yet Hartford still can't get a team. Well, Gary Bettman has always said that unless Hartford got a brand new arena, he would refuse to ever even consider Hartford as an NHL market again. And you know what the sad part of that is? Connecticut is an amazing hockey state. They have the national champions in collegiate hockey, the Quinnipiac Bobcats. UConn hockey is actually getting good. Even Sacred Heart hockey is getting pretty good. They've got 2 AHL teams. High school hockey is huge. It's a great hockey state. No NHL team, though. As long as Gary Bettman's around, they'll never even be able to sniff it. Winnipeg, they got a team back. Atlanta might get another team. Hartford, nope. No soup for you. Not going to happen. Jake Brown will join us coming up in 7 minutes on the show. We'll get his thoughts on the Mets. He told me, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. He said he was at a Rangers watch party tonight. I don't think I've ever been to a team watch. I've been to like a Super Bowl watch party. I don't think I've ever gone to a watch. Justin, I've told you this before. I'm not a fan of large crowds and people bumping up against me. I'm not like Howie Mandel OCD, but I don't want to be touched. I don't want people spilling their drinks around me, people acting stupid drunk. And when you get large groups of people together, that's all the stuff that goes on. I can't do it. At 35, I didn't mind it. At 45, I can't stand it. That's why I used to be bleacher guy. I would sit in the bleachers in the right field stands at Yankee Stadium. Loved it. Used to love it. As I've gotten older, now I'm luxury suite guy, pretentious, sitting down, where I can look at my phone and talk to people, and, oh, yeah, the game's going on. I've become that guy. It's terrible. It's really the circle. It's the progression of life. It's like politics. Young people are liberal because they have no money. Older people are conservative because they have money and they want to keep it. It's at 100% true. Yeah, there are exceptions to everything, and I know some older people out here in Palm Springs that tend to be liberal, but when you're in your 20s and you're starving, you want give me all that government cheese. Get to be in your 50s and 60s and you're loaded, you're like, man, keep the government away from my money. I will vote every Republican into office because you're going to cut my taxes. And it's the same way with sports. When you're a kid, it's cool sitting in the bleachers. Yeah, it's a big old party. This is great. When you're in your 40s and 50s, it's like, nah, I'm good. I'll pay the extra 70 or 80 bucks for a ticket and sit closer to the field. I'm good. All right, hang out for a few minutes. We're going to talk with Jake Brown. I'm looking forward to it. I've checked out his he's good on social media. I've checked out his podcast. The dude's real. So this will be his first time on the show. It'll be fun. Jake Brown coming up on the other side. New York Post executive producer of podcasts, also the host of the Amazing But True podcast about all things Mets with Nelson Figueroa. He's next on the Cash In, SportsMap Radio. Oh, hello. Da da bum 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 bum. Is this crap? Oh, God. You send me his phone number? Oh, he sent me his phone number. That's right. Do, 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 do. Let's do it. Good to have you all with us tonight. At the half, 53-41 Warriors on top of the Kings. Continuing to keep tabs on that. Also in the NBA tonight, it is the Clippers 42. Actually, now it's Phoenix 44. Clippers 42 with 2:46 to go in the second half. Always happy to go to the Big Apple. I get nostalgic. I get the feels. I miss it so much. Spent 10 of the great... I call my 10 years in New York the 10 best years and 10 worst years of my life all at the same time. Jake Brown is the host of the Amazing But True podcast about all things Mets with Nelson Figueroa. He is also an executive producer for podcasts over at the New York Post, and Jake Brown joins us tonight on the Cash In from the Big Apple. All right, I told everybody, I don't know if people were supposed to know that you were at a Rangers watch party tonight. What was a Rangers watch party like tonight when they were kicking the Devils' ass 5-1?
It was absolutely buzzing. I mean, I think the fans in Newark could hear it from downtown Manhattan. It was a very bougie area of Manhattan, parts I've never seen. I think rats were not existing down there. It was bizarre, but it was rocking tonight. 2 5-1 wins. I mean, what more can you ask for? They've absolutely dominated the Devils in both these games.
Yeah, it's impressive. And I had a couple experts on who were like, nah, that's going to be a long series. I watched the first 2 games of that series. I don't see a long series right now.
I mean, you're seeing one team with kind of all the playoff experience in the world, and you're seeing another team who just got here and is learning the way. And I think the moment's been too big for them. I mean, they haven't even put up an effort. I mean, the first period, sure, they were fine. After that, it was pretty much over. So, I don't think it'll be a sweep. I still think the Devils will win 1, maybe 2, but it's hard to see that this goes 7. Maybe it goes 6, but the way it's looking, this thing could go, be over in 5, and it'll help the Rangers maybe get some extra rest before, whoever they play next.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll see what happens with the Bruins, of course, 1-1 with the Florida Panthers. All right, I want to know, because I love following your stuff because you're such a Mets fan. And you've got to tell me before the end of this conversation, by the way, how did you get into the Cadillac suite? How did you get that? I want to know how you got into the most exclusive place in all of Citi Field. How Jake Brown got into these. I meant to talk about this on the show because the prices are stupid absurd. It's this exclusive club inside Citi Field that Jake Brown, who I saw he was in. I'm like, how is this guy getting in here?
And I think I responded with, "Come on, bro, it's me." I don't have the following of others, but I do know people in New York and in the streets I am known here where Cadillac was a sponsor of the Amazing But True podcast. Sponsor, I do our Jets and our Rangers, so we've done a few live shows. So I have a person I'm close with there, and the morning of the game, they said, "Yeah, we got 1 extra ticket," and it was a group text with me. It was me and Nelson Figueroa, but he doesn't care as much. And I answered first. I said to Figgy, unless you want to rock, paper, scissors, 2 out of 3 for it, but he didn't respond. So I took the ticket, and it is. It's bougie, but it is. I mean, I'm a little bit bougie, so I loved it. Food was good. The view. It's like you're playing deep right field. The speakeasy. Apparently, I wasn't supposed to tweet out the code to open the door because I'm an idiot, not realizing that speakeasies are a top secret thing, and I wasn't supposed to say it, and I gave it away. I had to delete the tweet to make sure it's not archived there forever.
Fair enough. Although nothing ever dies once it's on social media. Somebody's got it somewhere.
That's true.
Talk about the Scherzer 10-game suspension. He gets thrown out of the game yesterday and gets 10 games from Major League Baseball. And look, I said it before. I'm not a huge Mets fan by any stretch. I don't root against them as a Yankee fan, but I think that's a terrible job by Major League Baseball. And it just feels like, to me, very similar to what the NFL is doing in outlawing defense in the NFL and just making it impossible to play defense. Major League Baseball wants to make it as difficult for pitchers to succeed.
For a sport that was on the up and up after the WBC and the success that was outside of Diaz injury, I'm not a WBC guy, but I understand the successful players loved it. For a sport that went through all these new rules and games are quicker, older people with kids, they're happy. Games end earlier as we're up, watching the Mets here at midnight on the East Coast. So that's because it's the West Coast game. Games are shorter. It is on the rise, the up and up to, I won't say put a black eye on the sport because that's dramatic, but this lunacy, it's just absolutely insane for Max Scherzer, who, remember, he's part of the players union. So this is a guy who has a close relationship with the higher ups there. It's insane. He used something that's allowed, rosin and sweat. He didn't, use the ticky-tack stuff. He didn't use the stuff Garrett Cole was using, the spider tack. He didn't use the illegal stuff. He used too much of the legal stuff. And what's too much? It was determined too much by a guy who is the only umpire in the sport to decide that a pitcher doesn't, no other umpire. I want to see Phil Cuzzy and Max Scherzer in an alleyway because I'm putting all the money line, put it all, the spread, everything on Max Scherzer to whoop his butt. That is just so insane that for 2 starts and 10 games, and you put aside the fact that the Mets rotation is already short, that without Carrasco, Verlander's out until at least Cinco de Mayo. They're without now another starter, 3 starters down. Put that to the side because, you can't make that relevant here. That's just the Mets' tough luck right now. But 10 games. Like, a fine I get, maybe one start I even get, even though that's insane. But 10 games and 2 starts for a legal thing that, an MLB official was there watching, apparently, is just so mind-blowing to me. And, I can't blame him for not wanting to go through the appeal and delay the team. He's like, you know what? I'll take the 2 starts. He did have the sore back anyway, so in the end, maybe this benefits the Mets. I don't want to look at that approach, but maybe in the long term it does. I just think it was such a harsh, unnecessary penalty by baseball.
Yeah, I agree. And we saw, the Yankees go through it with Domingo Germán, where they were saying, the sticky substance, it made him go in, change the glove, all of this stuff. And he was able to stay in the game, which means you really have no universal set of rules. It's subjective. It's based on what one umpire sees versus another umpire sees. We were just talking about it tonight in the basketball game. You had Joel Embiid take a kick at the groin of a guy on the Nets. He doesn't get ejected, gets a flagrant 1, yet Draymond Green does it, and during the game, forget the suspension, and he gets a flagrant 2 and he gets tossed. There's no universal set of rules when it comes to officiating.
If they want to, be so ticky-tack about this, have a camera, have like a dash cam, like the umpire is a policeman or something. Have a dash cam while you're doing the check. Zoom in on the glove, show the world what you think was too much. Like, let us all see. Because the only one that saw was his 2 eyes and maybe the other umpire. And since when are these guys experts on what's too sticky? Like, are these the sticky experts? The geek squad for stickiness. Like, what is it? We have best 5 for umpires right now. I mean, give me a freaking break. And, Phil Cuzzy, the fact that no other umpire has done it for him, I would investigate him if I'm Major League Baseball. Why don't you investigate Phil Cuzzy? Because why has no other umpire said anything to Max or any other pitcher that's used it? Because Max is not the only one who's used sweat and, excessive rosin. Most guys just do the quick check, boom, go check. And that's what it should be. And, he pointed to an issue. And, I've talked to guys and I've talked to players, and my co-host was a pitcher. He pitched in the Atlantic League last year at 47 years old, Nelson Figueroa. So shout at him for doing that. But, he talks about the baseball is really a problem. These guys cannot get the right grip on it. And that's something that baseball's got to address too. And I think Max kind of called it out. And, endless players have called it out. Pete Alonso did the same thing, calling out the ball last year. That's something that's got to be looked at too. So it is a fishy situation. Thank God this happened, in April and not September. But yeah, I mean, I'm on Max's side because, he's right. He said, I would be an idiot for him to check a second time and for me to have done something suspicious. And I agree. And I know he's known to use stuff in the past or, use an extra rosin, whatever it is. But baseball's got to be clear about their set of rules. And I think that's a BS rule. You got rid of the other stuff. If a guy uses a little rosin and sweat, so be it.
Jake Brown, amazing but true, host of the Mets podcast with Nelson Figueroa, joining us here on the show. I got about a minute. How up for grabs is that city right now with the Knicks coming home 1-1 against the Cavaliers?
Oh, I cannot wait. I'll be there tomorrow and Sunday. It's going to be on fire. You kind of feel the buzz in the air everywhere I go. I see Knicks jerseys, Rangers jerseys. Tomorrow's a big game. If they go down 2-1, you got the short turnover because Sunday's an afternoon game. Tomorrow's an 8:30 game, so it's going to go to 11:30. I'm a night owl, so I'll be good. But tomorrow's a big one. You go up 2-1, that's huge. Just be physical again. They were not physical. They turned it over too much. Play smart, distribute the ball, and make shots. They just missed a lot of open shots. So I think they'll get this game 3 here.
Jake Brown, this was fun. Let's do it again. Glad to have you on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We'll do it again soon. Jake Brown hanging out with us. We'll come back. Much more to do this hour of the Cash-In. An update on the Warriors and Kings. Kings creeping closer. They're at the half with the Clippers and Suns. We'll tell you about that too on the Cash-In at SportsMap Radio. All right, we're in the break. Mute this. Thank you. "15 minutes till the top of the hour. Vegas has tied things up with Winnipeg at 1, 9:50 to go in the second period. Game 2 of that series with the Jets up 1-0. Oh, Vegas just scored again, 2-1. I mean, talk about live updates, man. I mean, that is like Johnny on the spot. So Vegas leads Winnipeg 2-1. 9:35 to go in the second period. They're through 2. Colorado and Seattle tied at 2. And look, I don't want to call it a must-win for the Avalanche because it's, game 2 and they're one of the top seeds in the West. But I wouldn't want to be on the wrong side of an 0-2 deficit going into Seattle for a couple of games there. It's not the position exactly that I think the Avalanche would want to be in. The NBA games, it's Golden State 68, Sacramento 56, 5:01 to go in the third. This is not, look, it's not going to be a Golden State runaway tonight. I mean, maybe Golden State wins and, then people say, well, they were able to win without Draymond, and that'll open up a whole different conversation. But, there are certain aspects to not having Draymond Green out there. Obviously, you hate what you lose in terms of defense and the tenacity and the intensity and all of that. But at the same time, you get to put another scorer on the floor because Draymond is not a threat to score in an NBA game, especially at this stage of his career. Not that he was ever much of a scorer, but less so now than ever before. A little drought here for the Warriors in terms of being able to score. Wow, how is there no foul there? Sacramento within 10, 4:35 to go in the third. They are at the half in Los Angeles. Clippers trail Phoenix. It's just 54-51. Look, I said this before, I'll say it again. You could not let this happen if you are the Phoenix Suns. You've got to win this game. You lose this game, you're talking about a situation where you really could lose the series. And Phoenix, let me tell you, with everything they invested in Kevin Durant, Chris Paul at this stage of his career, if they lose this game tonight and go down 2-1, and again, who knows if Kawhi is there for game 4 or not, what you do if you're the Clippers. And people are going to start asking questions. This team looked dominant during the regular season with Durant. But not a big sampling. And there is something to be said for chemistry and playing together for a long period of time, facing adversity together, all of those things. Devin Booker's got 21 at the half. Kevin Durant has 14. For the Clippers, boy, it is the Norman Powell show. People were saying Norman Powell could have a big game tonight. He is 8 of 10, 3 of 4 from 3, 22 points. He's the only Clipper in double figures. Russell Westbrook, 9.7 assists, 3 rebounds, 2 steals, and a block. Just filling up the stat sheet. That's what he's going to have to do. They're going to need a big second half out of him if they're to figure out some way. And again, in a one-game situation, in a one-off, we see teams all the time that win games shorthanded. But this one would truly be a shock if Phoenix found a way to lose this game tonight. I don't care that it's in Los Angeles. None of that stuff matters to me. You have got to figure out a way to win this game if you're the Phoenix Suns. Because if you lose this series, this will be a game you look back on and say, that's a game you can't lose. Look, if it's a regular season game and you sort of sleepwalk through it, like teams tend to do, we see it all the time in the NBA. Regular season, fine. Postseason, you cannot lose games like this. Like I said, the Lakers losing to Memphis in Game 2 is completely inexcusable because the disparity in talent is so great in that circumstance that the only way you can lose is if you just simply mail it in. If you don't give the effort, if you don't put out the effort. And they didn't. For the first 30 minutes of that basketball game, the Lakers just simply did not put out the effort. The telephone number, 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. You want to text at the show, go ahead and do it. 888-670-8549, 888-670-8549 if you want to hit us up on the text line tonight. I started the hour with a quarterback story. Let's end one with the quarterback story. Started the hour talking about Aaron Rodgers. Let's end the hour talking about, yep, you guessed it. There's a Tom Brady story. Tom Brady, the headline in USA Today, Tom Brady gives curious answer when asked about unretiring and playing for the Miami Dolphins. Brady was the keynote speaker at a global technology conference, Emerge Americas, in Miami on Thursday. When asked a question by one host at the event, the question, well, I guess we could let you hear it for yourself.
Spending a lot of time in Miami, now you call it home. By chance, is there any chance that you're coming out of retirement and playing for the Fins?
Oh, man. I know.
I'm just saying, you gotta...
Well, I will say, now that I'm not affiliated with any team anymore, and even though I have strong ties with a couple teams, I do have some friends on the Dolphins that I really like. So I wouldn't say I necessarily root for them all the time, but I root for my friends to do well, and several of them play for Miami. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to end, I think.
That's not a no. That is not Tom Brady saying that he's not coming out of retirement. So you're saying there's a chance. Yep. I'm saying there's a chance. Look, I've said this before. I will say it again. Until we get through an entire NFL season and Tom Brady has not suited up for, a competing NFL team. Until we go through an entire season and Tom Brady isn't playing, I'm not buying this idea that Tom Brady's retired. He can fill out all the paperwork he wants. It doesn't matter to me. And, depending on what happens in Santa Clara with the 49ers, Miami with the Dolphins, and Tua Tagovailoa and his situation as far as, concussions and all that stuff. I mean, can I even throw this out? Man, I don't know why I haven't thought about this. Why not the Jets? Why not the Jets? Could you imagine the uproar in the city of Boston if Tom Brady went to play for the New York Jets? Oh, sign me up. Sign me up. I'll go buy my Sunday ticket so I can watch. I'll pay the freight. Just give me Tom Brady on the New York Jets next year when the Aaron Rodgers deal falls through. Or in San Francisco, if Purdy can't play and they can't get Aaron Rodgers, I'm telling you, this is why the Brady stuff's going to stay. There's just no way this story dies. He's just going to hang out. He's going to stay in shape. He's going to enjoy the offseason. He's going to go do his, speaking engagements and clean up on the celebrity speaking engagement tour, wave his little hat in the air. League of Their Own, if you don't know the reference. But when all is said and done, when we get around to, July, camp starts warming up and Tom starts to get those feels, Team needs a quarterback. They're a contender. Somebody tears an ACL early on in camp. The first call is going to Tom Brady if he's out there. Jets, Dolphins, San Francisco / Santa Clara. I'm convinced he will play somewhere next year. I will take that bet. I don't know if there's betting odds on that. Can we check? Is there betting odds on Tom Brady playing at least one game in the NFL next year? I'll see if I can find that as we go to the top of the hour. Oh, Steph Curry just hit one from Mars. Golden State's up 16 on Sacramento. Yeesh. 79-63, 2:30 to go in the third. And they're on the verge of doing what they normally do, and that is a dominant third quarter en route to a victory. They're underway in the third quarter. Phoenix and the Clippers. We'll keep you posted on that. Final hour of the cash-in right around the corner on SportsMap Radio. Sure.
Lying on the floor going and just flooding the room. Look at this. It does smell a bit sweaty, honey.
I gotta take a shower.
And shower together. Then I can do back, forth. So red.
I don't feel sunburned. No, I really don't. Like, normally I feel it if I'm sunburned. This does not feel like that. Oh, so you didn't go at all?
Yeah, there was nowhere to park, so we just came back.
Oh.
It was really crowded.
Make sure that toilet doesn't need to be jingled. My money don't jiggle, jiggle. It folds. Wow, nice shot. Hoop and harm. Good. Sacramento hanging around. Say Phoenix? Yeah, sure. Final hour of a Thursday/Friday edition of the show. Good to have you all with us. Programming note, we will be off next Thursday and Friday for the NFL draft. You'll get VSiN coverage from the draft in Kansas City. So I'll be off on Thursday and Friday. But let not your heart be troubled. I will be back. I played golf today. Yeah, I always wonder when you hear a pro golfer say, man, I hit it so much better than my score. That was me today. I hit the ball so much better than my actual score indicated. Had a lot of good shots and just had, at the end of the day, I looked at my scorecard and I just had nothing to show for it. Terrible. You know what I had to show for it? Actually, Justin Barbosa, producer, engineer, working the show in Houston tonight. You know what I had to show for it at the end of 4 hours of golf today? A sunburnt forehead because I forgot to put on sunscreen and a hat. Dynamite dropping, Monty. Those broadcasting lessons are really paying off. I got sunburn on my head. I'm balding, so just not. It's not pretty. When you look at me head on during the show, if you're watching the stream, you can't really tell that I'm losing my hair. But if I tilt my head down, you can see it a little bit more. So I was thinking about just doing wigs, just being like Elton John and just wearing a bunch of different wigs all the time. Every day I'll have a new hairstyle. Some days I'll have a mohawk. Some days I'll have like the Beatles bowl style haircut. Just something different every day. You never know what's going to be on my head every day. What dead animal's going to be on my head. I think I can't grow a mullet. I don't have enough hair. Have you seen my head? Have you ever watched the video of the show? Maybe you haven't. That's true, Justin. It would be a party in the back. 7.7 seconds to go in the third quarter. Golden State still hasn't pulled away. They're up 12. Of course, I say that as Steph Curry's dribbling up the floor literally in the closing seconds. He got off a three. It's no good. Golden State 84, Sacramento 72. And look, I mean, this has not been the runaway performance from the Warriors that you would have thought you'd see in a game 3 in this environment. Not a runaway. And I know there's no moral victories in the postseason, but if you're the Warriors and you've thrown everything at the Kings tonight and you turn around at the end of 3, you're only up 12. You know you're in for a long series. I'll say it again. They're not winning the series. I will drive that until the cows come home. The Warriors will not win this series. You shall not pass. They're not going to win this series. Meanwhile, Phoenix and the Clippers, that game has 9:27 to go in the third. Phoenix 59, the Clippers 53. Norman Powell still just dominating for the Clippers in this game. He has been the offense. He has 22 on 8 of 11 shooting. That is efficient. Meanwhile, for Phoenix, Devin Booker has 22 to lead the way. Kevin Durant with 16. Now 62-53, Phoenix on top. They just got a 3-ball. So Phoenix up 9, trying to create some distance in that game. Take a 2-1 series lead. No Kawhi Leonard, obviously. In case you missed it earlier in the show, Leonard was ruled out for this game because he aggravated a knee injury in game 1. Then the team foolishly had him play game 2 getting greedy, thinking they could take the first 2 games in Phoenix. Instead, they lose. Then they lose him for game 3, and they're likely going to lose this game tonight and be in a 2-1 series deficit. Phoenix has outscored the Clippers 8-2 in this game. And look, it also feels like it's just a matter of time. Clippers are going to run out of gas. They ran out of gas last game when they had Kawhi on the floor. What are they going to do tonight with no Kawhi and no Paul George? It's just only so many bodies you can throw into a game. You can only play Terrence Mann and Rodney Covington so many minutes before it starts to become a problem for you. 65-56, 8:14 to go in the third there. So that's what's going on in the basketball games as we speak. NHL right now, 2 games still ongoing. We got 9:45 to go in the third period. Seattle and Colorado still tied at 2. Boy, it is tense in Denver with this Colorado team tied at 2. I mean, remember, you're talking about one of the top seeds in the West. And Seattle, who is a wild card team, granted a wild card team that won over that had over 100 points this year in the Western Conference, but still, I don't think anybody could have expected a situation where 9:27 to go in the third period, the Colorado Avalanche are potentially 9 minutes and 27 seconds away from being down 2-0 in this series going back to Seattle for Game 3. End of the second, Winnipeg and Vegas tied at 2. Earlier tonight, Toronto ran roughshod all over Tampa Bay. 7-2 was the final to even up that series at a game apiece. And the Rangers just continue to be the most impressive thing so far in this postseason. They dominate the first 2 games of this series. They outscore the Devils by a score of 10-2 through the first 2 games. 5-1 again the final tonight in favor of the Rangers. And they'll go back to Madison Square Garden for Game 3 of this series. Rangers goals tonight. Kakko, Patrick Kane had a goal and 2 assists. Chris Kreider with 2 more goals. Tarasenko had a goal. And Shesterkin in net, a stone wall. 22 saves in the win. Lone goal for the Devils was Hawala. So 2 back-to-back 5-1 games there. That's what we got going on. What's left in baseball? Do we have anything left in baseball tonight? Let's see. Is everything going? No, it can't be. Everything is final here. Let's see. It's a final at Wrigley Field. The Dodgers upend the Cubbies 6-2 tonight. Dodgers improved to 10-10 back at 500. The Cubs 11-7. They've been a bit of a surprise here in the early going, and largely because Nico Horner and Dansby Swanson at the top of the lineup with Ian Happ. I mean, go look at the top 5 guys in that Cubs batting order right now. Horner's hitting .338. Swanson's hitting .338. Ian Happ's hitting .304. Suzuki's hitting .348, and Cody Bellinger's hitting .290. I mean, all you need to know about why this Cubs team right now in the early going has been good. They are really hitting the baseball. But the Dodgers get the win tonight. 6-2, again, was the final. 2 games still going on right now. Mets lead the Giants 5-4. Mets up on the Giants 5-4 out in the Bay Area. And the Padres playing their first game back with Fernando Tatis Jr. 7-5 on top of Arizona in the top of the 8th. That game in Phoenix tonight. Fernando Tatis Jr., his return to the big leagues. 0 for 4 tonight with 2 strikeouts for Tatis Jr., and you know he's going to hear it from the fans. Padres 9-11. In the early going on the season. 9-11. Look at the records around baseball right now. Tampa Bay 16-3, obviously. The top of the heap. Yankees are 12-7. They have not lost a series yet this year. Orioles are 11-7. Have won 7 of 10. In the Central, Minnesota's leading the way. You know, this is what the Central's going to be. It's going to be, the mediocre division. Somebody's got to win it. Minnesota and Cleveland will compete there atop the division all year. I thought the White Sox were going to be a team to look out for. They're off to a slow start at 7-12. The AL West right now, it's all about the Rangers. They are just bashing teams' brains in right now. They have the second most runs scored in all of baseball, second only to the Tampa Bay Rays, which is a story unto itself. And their run differential is plus 43 through their first 18 games. They are 12-6. They are 3.5 clear of the Astros right now, who are 9-10. So, even without Jacob deGrom, who can't stay healthy, in the National League right now, the Braves in the East, a couple of games up on the Mets. Marlins are 10-9. People don't pay attention to baseball this early in the year, so I don't mind giving you a little rundown of what's going on. Brewers are off to a great start, too. They're 14-5. Won 7 of 10. I don't know how they're doing it. They don't score a heck of a lot. The Pirates have been a big surprise at 13-7. I don't know how long that's going to last, but that's definitely a bit of a surprise. And in the AL West right now, it's just a lot of mediocrity. Diamondbacks leading the way at 11-8. Waiting for the Dodgers and Padres to get it cooking. 93-77, Golden State on top of Sacramento right now with 9:12 to go in the fourth. You just keep waiting for the Warriors to put this thing away, and they might be starting to do that. They just went up 18. Golden State leads Sacramento 95-77 with 9:09 to go in the fourth quarter. And you have to wonder when this game's over, if and when the Warriors win. Do we have to have a conversation about Draymond Green? They were 0-2 in the series with him. They're 1-0 without him. We're coming back. quarter past the hour. Golden State up 18 with 9 minutes to play in the fourth. See if the Kings have another spurt in them. Phoenix up 13 on the Clippers, 79-66. So both the Clippers and the Warriors creating some distance here in the second half and trying to get themselves into a position where they can get a win in Game 3. In the case for the Warriors, it would be their first win of the series. For the Phoenix Suns, it would give them a 2-1 series lead. No Kawhi Leonard, no Paul George in that game for the LA Clippers, and that's obviously played a huge role in what we've seen tonight. Russell Westbrook with 16 right now, 8 assists, 3 rebounds, 2 steals, and a block. He has had 5 turnovers, though, and that's been costly. Norman Powell been the story for the Clippers offensively tonight with 28, but again, they've got 13 points from their bench in this game. Everything about the statistics and the box score tell you everything you need to know right now about why the Clippers find themselves down 13 in this game with 4:53 to go in the third. Golden State up 95-79, 8:16 to go in the fourth quarter. So it looks like, barring something unforeseen, Golden State will get in the win column here in this series, take a 2-1, or rather trim the lead to 2-1. They're up 98-79, and Kings starting to turn it over now. Fans are into it. Hey, you know what? Say this for the Warriors. You knew they were going to come out and play with their hair on fire tonight. And for a few quarters, the Kings have been able to hang around, but they're going to take their lumps tonight and have to, come back for Game 4 of this series. And I said it at the end of the last segment. It really does make you wonder if you're the Warriors. You've held this juggernaut of an offense in the Kings to 79 points tonight without Draymond Green. And you see everything that comes with Draymond Green, including the lack of offense, by the way. And they can say all they want. Well, we wouldn't have won our championships without Draymond Green, and sometimes he crosses the line and all this stuff. There's no way as a head coach, as a GM and Bob Myers as a head coach and Steve Kerr, that you can't look at an effort like this and say, hey, you know what? Think about what this team might look like without Draymond Green. Yeah, it has to cross your mind. It might not be sensible. You're obviously not going to sit him. He's going to play in Game 4. But it has to cross your mind. Can I return to something we were talking about before? Hey, remember Justin, before I said I was trying to find odds on Tom Brady playing next year? According to bookies.com, you can figure out what kind of site that is. I don't think you need to be a rocket scientist. The odds Tom Brady stays retired are at 90.1%. He is -1. You'd have to wager $1,000 to win just $100. That's how strong a favorite it is that Tom Brady stays retired. But there are 3 teams listed for a possible return for Tom Brady, and odds are listed. The number 1 odds for Tom Brady to come back and play is the Miami Dolphins at plus 1250. A 7.41% chance that Tom Brady would play for the Miami Dolphins. The next team on the list, the San Francisco 49ers. Plus 3,000 are the odds for Tom Brady to play for the San Francisco 49ers next year. Again, meaning if you wagered $100 and Tom Brady plays for San Francisco, you'd win $3,000. The Patriots are last of the 3 teams listed. The Patriots are plus 4,000 to have Brady playing quarterback for him next year. So there you go. I still think the Jets, man, if I'm the Jets, I would definitely entertain the option of Tom Brady being my quarterback next year. Speaking of betting, I want to get this story. And by the way, we'll be joined by Mark Carrig coming up in 10 minutes on the show. Had a chance to talk to him tonight. He's our 2-for-1 on the A's leaving Oakland and talking about the absolute train wreck that is the situation in Oakland, both from the fan standpoint, the ownership of the A's standpoint, the city of Oakland standpoint. A lame duck franchise now for the next 4 years before they could even play in Las Vegas. What does it all mean? Mark Carrig from The Athletic spoke to us in the first hour of the show tonight. We'll have that conversation. We'll run it back for you about 9 minutes from now. Does it feel like when you watch TV these days, all you see are sports betting ads? Every other commercial feels like it's an ad for sports betting. And some of them are creative and some of them are funny. But after a while, you do have, and I say this as somebody that loves to bet on sports, which is why California drives me crazy because I can't bet here legally. It just drives you bonkers living here. Well, a group of professional sports leagues and media outlets have now formed a coalition that aims to ensure a responsible approach to sports betting advertising, which has increased dramatically over the last 5 years. And even politicians are starting to look at it. David Purdom wrote the story for ESPN. The Coalition for Responsible Sports Betting Advertising, the CRSBA, I don't know, announced Wednesday, consists of the NFL, NBA, NHL, Major League Baseball, WNBA, NASCAR, and MLS. Media outlets NBC Universal and Fox have joined the coalition, spearheaded by NFL Vice President of Public Policy and Government Affairs, Jonathan Nabavi. Interesting, by the way, ESPN does not seem to be a part of this coalition. Just saying. As the legalization of sports betting spreads nationwide, we feel it is critical to establish guardrails around how sports betting should be advertised to consumers across the U.S., the coalition said in a statement. Each member of the coalition feels a responsibility to ensure sports betting advertising is not only targeted to an appropriate audience, but also that the message is thoughtfully crafted and carefully delivered. Coalition says it aims to implement and maintain consumer protection policies built on 6 core principles, including sports betting should be marketed only to adults of legal betting age, obviously. Sports betting advertising should not promote irresponsible or excessive gambling or degrade the consumer experience. Sports betting advertisements should not be misleading. They should be in good taste. Publishers should have appropriate internal reviews of sports betting advertising, and publishers should review consumer complaints pertaining to sports betting advertising. Okay. I mean, all of this seems like pretty common sense stuff. 33 states and the District of Columbia have legal betting markets right now. But, I mean, all of that sounds good, and it sounds like you're trying to do the right thing, but at the end of the day, if sports betting's legal, people are going to do it. And even where it's not legal, people are going to do it. I say this all the time. States that, try to stop it or stymie it, all they're doing is sending it underground. Trust me, I know. Before it was legal, I was able to bet on sports, and it's just people are going to find ways to do it. Local bookies, offshore betting. People are going to do it. But hey, people got to keep up appearances. It is funny to note, though, that ESPN wrote that story, and ESPN does not seem to be a party to that thing about, responsible gambling and responsible advertising and all that stuff. 5:20 to go in the fourth quarter. It's Golden State 105, Sacramento 86. So it looks like the Warriors will get a win in game 3 of that series. Phoenix, late third on top of the Clippers, 89-78. Clippers still hanging around. If they can have that thing under 10 Going to the fourth quarter, I think you would have signed up for that in a heartbeat if you were Ty Lue. To just be hanging around, try and steal that game late. And boy, Russell Westbrook had a huge third quarter in this game. He's had 15 in the third. 24 points for Russell Westbrook tonight. 4 rebounds, 9 assists, 2 steals, and a block. Norman Powell leading the way for the Clippers with 29. So Clippers down 11, under a minute to go in the third. All right, we'll do baseball on the other side. We'll keep an eye on the basketball playoff games and the hockey. More to do on the cash-in on SportsMap Radio. Rolling along on this Thursday edition of the show. I mentioned it briefly at the top of the show, and it bothers me a lot to see what's going on with the Oakland A's as they're, basically their fate has been sealed. They're going to be on their way to Las Vegas in a few years. Mark Carrick wrote a great piece, and I happened to stumble upon it today over at The Athletic, about the A's leaving. And he and I both, we were just talking about it off air, have the experience of having both lived on the East Coast in New York, because that's where I knew a lot of his work, and having lived on the West Coast, so kind of understanding the dynamics of Bay Area sports too. So I thought we'd bring Mark on for a few minutes and get his thoughts on this and talk a little bit about the piece he wrote. Mark, let's start with, I guess, the baseline here and sort of the overview. How did we get to this point for people that don't understand how the A's could be leaving for Las Vegas?
Yeah, I think this is the culmination of a lot of years of bickering. This is an ownership group.
Yes, definitely. Thank you. Oh, Curry. Wow. 110.89.
Workout.
Thanks for being with us. SportsMap Radio and the SportsMap Radio app. We'll update you on the playoff basketball in a bit. But first, let's bring in Mark Carrick, my conversation with him on the Oakland A's departure to Las Vegas. Now it's pretty much official. We had Mark on the show in the first hour, and essentially I asked him for the 20,000-foot view of why it is the Oakland A's are leaving the city of Oakland for Las Vegas.
Yeah, I think this is the culmination of a lot of years of bickering. This is an ownership group that has been looking for a better deal, which that's what they do. They want taxpayers to pay for their ballpark. They want all the perks. The city to kind of just hand them a pallet, basically, to go generate some money. What Las Vegas did. You've got a city that I think has tried to meet those demands, but politics are what they are. And so priorities change, elected officials change, promises change. So you've had a bunch of that. It's difficult to build things in California, right? Like there's a lot of hurdles and challenges. So you've had some of that there too. So basically, it's you've had a team that's been trying to build a new ballpark for many, many years that hasn't been able to really meet that challenge. And I think part of the frustration here is, it's been a while since I feel like that's been a good faith effort. I think a lot of fans feel the same way. So, a lot of what I talk about in the piece is that it's almost kind of like expected and logical that they'd want to move. I think there's a lot of economic reasons for it and business reasons for it. But, they didn't have to spend the last, however many years basically tearing the team apart and blaming the fan base for their problems. I felt like that was sort of the worst part of this. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. It's a stadium dispute that's taken forever, and at the end, the fans got scapegoated.
How much of it ultimately, if you were to cast blame, and you may not want to do this, but I'll ask anyway, if you were to shift, percentages of the blame, is it 50-50? Is it the city? I mean, because some people will argue, look, they've lost the A's, but they've also lost the Raiders. They've also lost the Warriors. So some would argue that some of this has to be on the city as well.
Oh, of course. I think there's not one side to blame for anything. Certainly the city and the elected leaders of the region play a part in this, 100%. The San Francisco Giants play a part in this. 30 years ago, when the Giants were on the way out to Tampa, the Oakland A's ceded territorial rights in order to keep or help keep the Giants. Because they had talked about building a ballpark potentially in San Jose, and to do that, they needed the A's blessing. They gave it to them for no compensation. Well, guess what? When the situations were reversed, the Oakland A's could have used that territorial freedom, and the Giants didn't give it to them. So certainly that's a part of this. Elected leadership's a part of this. And of course, ownership's a part of this. I think they, again, were looking for the best deal, as all sports team owners are looking for. And obviously a place like Las Vegas that is desperate for the cachet that a major league team would bring, they were obviously going, to pay top dollar to kind of pull out all the stops. And that's what they've done. Okay. They're giving the A's, the best deal that they were going to get. So that's business. That's pro sports. That's how it works. I don't think there's any dispute about that. People know why this went down. I think what I find particularly bothersome is this, outright effort to basically pin the blame on fans, to raise ticket prices, to gut the team, to let the stadium fall apart, and then for these folks to have the audacity to basically say, hey, look, we can't stay here. The fans don't turn out. It was just totally disingenuous. I think totally unnecessary, and it's what I feel the worst about, just watching it play out.
Mark Carrick, deputy managing editor at The Athletic, wrote a great piece on The Athletic's website. You could see it there on the Athletic app about the A's relocating to Las Vegas and sort of talking about some of the backstory about how this has all gone down over the last several years. I come at it from a different perspective, too, because I grew up in Connecticut. We had one major league sports team, and now they have the Connecticut Sun, and think what you may of the WNBA. That is a major league team. But at the end of the day, I saw what happened in Hartford when the Whalers left. and it destroyed that city. I mean, the entire downtown area of Hartford, Connecticut died. People don't realize the impact. First the Raiders, then the Warriors, now the A's. I mean, this is going to have an enormous impact on the city of Oakland. And sometimes I just don't know if city leaders or people realize, or maybe they just don't care about how many lives are impacted by stuff like this. The parking attendants, the food vendors, the people setting up on the streets selling merch, all of that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's, I was talking to some folks back home in the Bay Area about that very thing today. There's just a lot of people who, the franchise might move, but those jobs aren't moving, right? Like you talk about the economic impact of a full major league season where you've got 81 home games. And for a lot of the history of the Oakland A's, guess what? They were making the playoffs a ton too. All right. So like these are, real world things that, just like everything else that gets mired in politics, right? Like good luck trying to explain how these outcomes happen. All right. Like you get competing interests, you get elections every couple of years that change the folks that are in charge of these things. The region's changed, right? Like there's a lot of things that sort of, change and coalesce and lead to these. I will say this though too, like it never made sense for the A's to be in Oakland, truth be told. And I get into that in the piece too. Historically, it was sort of this odd situation where it just sort of happened. It's kind of a miracle they stuck around this long. So, there's on one side of it, it's really terrible because they've been in the city for so long. They've become a part of the Bay Area. They've become ingrained in the culture of the East Bay. Also, it's like they were sort of an aberration to begin with. And I feel like, if you've been, connected with the team for any part of time, if you ever rooted for him or been around him or watched him, it's almost like you knew this day was coming at some point. You did. I find it unfortunate though that they did it in just about the most painful way possible, which is, again, drive fans away and then blame them for staying away. Right? This was on purpose. It's disingenuous, and it's the worst part of the whole deal.
Mark, I wonder what the next few years looks like, because they're not going to be ready for Vegas until 27, I think. Like, I wonder what the next few years of this team as a lame duck team. And that's a long time to be a lame duck team. I don't know if I could remember a team being a lame duck team for, 3 or 4 years before. We've all kind of felt like they are anyway, but to officially know that this team's gone in 3 or 4 years, and at the same time wondering if Dave Cavill and John Fisher, if now that they know that Vegas is in their sights, they can't move to Vegas with a team that's craptastic when it gets there. They almost have to start building it now.
Yeah, I think the Coliseum lease, if I'm not mistaken, is expired after the 2025 season. So that's a 2-season gap of where does this team play? Well, just taking a guess here, the Oakland A's already have their AAA team in Las Vegas. They just built a ballpark that's, not even 5 years old in Summerlin, Nevada. All right. So I think they could do worse than to just pick up and move and play in that AAA ballpark until the real one is completed. It's probably what they should do, given the fact that, you see what it is now before the announcement. I also say this in the call, Jason. This is the worst team I've ever watched right now. Like, this baseball team, as constituted,
I'm with you. Yeah.
It's absolutely terrible. And, I've been watching ball since I was 7 years old. I've been covering this sport since 2008. There is not a worse baseball team I have ever seen take a major league field. They can't hit. They can't throw strikes. They're non-competitive. They've got 3 wins this year, and I, honest to God, don't even know how they got to that. All right. So, they call up a pitching prospect last night that throws 100 miles an hour, and they still lose the game by 10 runs.
Yeah.
So, this is not just a bad team, folks. This is historically bad. They might be 62 Mets bad.
Yeah.
Okay. That's how bad these guys are. So, you're going to get, 800 people in the ballpark, just like in 1979.
Yep.
History repeats itself. The A's have been here before. Sadly, they have. They cut their front office to 2 people in 1979 under Charlie Finley. He was desperate to move the team, decided, you know what, I'm not going to sink a single penny into this club, cut pretty much everything to the bone, stopped marketing a club. They had 700 people in the stands for an A's Mariners game that year. Guess what? We've seen it before. We're going to see it again. Your question is, what's it going to look like? There it is.
Mark Carrick, deputy managing editor at The Athletic, wrote a great piece. It's up on The Athletic's website and on the app. Go and check it out. Mark, I appreciate it. Thanks on short notice tonight.
You got it. Thanks, Jason.
A pleasure to talk with him. Wish it was under happier circumstances, but it certainly is not. We're coming back. Final in the Warriors-Kings game. Tell you what's going on with the Clippers and Suns, too. It's the Cash-In on SportsMap Radio. Yeah, I'm watching. Hockey game went final, too? What the hell? Colorado beat Seattle 3-2. Max Scherzer has dropped his appeal of the 10-game suspension from Major League Baseball, so he will start serving that right away. I don't know. I don't get it. I do not get it. You hem and you haw, and then you decide to drop the appeal. Why wouldn't you at least go and state your case to Major League Baseball? It's kind of odd. Lifelong A's fan Jason Bressler on the A's moving to Las Vegas said, "This really is one of the saddest days. Some of my best childhood memories were in Section 216 of the Coliseum with my friends and family, and when they were on the road, Bill King was the soundtrack of my youth. Attending Game 4 of the 1989 World Series with my dad is an experience I'll cherish forever." Oakland Mayor Sheng Tao called the A's franchise decision extremely disappointing and cited team officials' disingenuous stance in negotiations with the city while speaking at a news conference Thursday. "At every opportunity, the A's have made increasing demands on Oakland," she said, "and at every opportunity, we have risen to the challenge and overcome the hurdles placed before us. Instead of working with us, they've announced a land deal in another city, and I want to be very clear, this announcement happened mid-negotiations, and it shows they had no interest in making a deal with Oakland at all." I got news for you. As much as I'm disappointed in the Oakland A's and Dave Kaval and John Fisher, I'm just as disappointed in the leadership of that city because it's on both sides. Takes two to tango. Takes two to not have a deal happen. It takes two to make a deal happen. It's on both sides. Plain and simple. And now the A's are 3-16. They're a lame duck franchise. They'll be playing in front of nobody in that stadium. It's just awful. All right, it's a final. The Warriors beat Sacramento 114-97. So Sacramento leads that series 2-1. Phoenix right now on top of the Clippers, 111-101. 6:09 to go in the fourth. It ain't over yet in Los Angeles. Clippers are hanging around. As long as they stay in that, as long as that game stays close, you can always try and steal it late. Clippers being led by Norman Powell, who has 33 on 12 of 19 shooting. Russell Westbrook has 24 on 9 of 18 shooting. Problem is, they ain't getting much other than that. Bones Highland has 16 off the bench. It's kind of funny. The Clippers are actually shooting at a much better percentage than Phoenix, but the Suns have gotten to the free throw line a ton, double the amount of free throws of the Clippers. 35 free throws for Phoenix to just 18 for the Clippers in this game. Tough to win with that kind of disparity at the charity stripe. It has been very charitable for Phoenix tonight. So 6:09 to go out there, 111-101. It is a final. Colorado gets a much-needed win after dropping Game 1 against Seattle. They win Game 2, 3-2. So Colorado and Seattle tied at 1 game apiece, going back to Seattle for Game 3. They are late third, 6:27 to go in the third. Vegas leads Winnipeg 4-2, so Vegas about to even up that series at 1 game apiece. Tampa Bay and Toronto are even at 1 game apiece after Toronto roughed up the Lightning 7-2. And the Rangers, a 2-0 series lead on the Devils after a 5-1 win earlier tonight in New Jersey. And that is a commanding 2-0 series lead, given the fact that Game 3 of that series is back in New York. They'll go across the Hudson, and the Rangers will try to basically lock that thing up at Madison Square Garden. The other game tonight, by the way, was Philadelphia beating Brooklyn 102-97. It was a very entertaining game, but it was an ugly game. James Harden got tossed for a some sort of little jab to the groin from one of the players on the Sixers, and Joel Embiid got a flagrant for kicking towards the groin of a Sixers player. He didn't get tossed. Some people thought he should have been. We'll see what the NBA does about it as far as Game 4 of that series is concerned. Also, Harden with the flagrant 2. Is he going to get tossed for the next game? I doubt it. There's not a history there. It was just kind of a little jab at the junk. A jab at the junk. I like that. We should coin that phrase. A jab at the junk. Before we go, a couple of notes. Cowboys pick up the 5th-year option on CeeDee Lamb. They're still hoping to get a longer-term deal done for him, but in the meantime, he will stay put, obviously. The 5th-year option there has been picked up. And let me finish with a good story. Finish with some good news to end the show tonight. There's always so many bad stories we talk about on the show. We saved the best for last, though. White Sox closer Liam Hendriks on Thursday posted to social media he is cancer-free after completing chemotherapy treatments for non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Remission, Hendriks posted to Instagram along with pictures and video of him throughout his cancer fight. It's official. I'm cancer-free, he said. He finished his final round of chemo on April 5th with a video of him ringing the victory bell that you see so many people ring who go through this battle. He announced the diagnosis back in January. There's no official timeline for him to come back, but the team elected not to move him to the 60-day injured list last month, which means he could be back sooner rather than later. He was third in the majors with 37 saves last year, led the AL with a career-high 38 saves in 2021 after he left the A's to sign a $54 million deal with the White Sox. 115 saves over 12 seasons with Minnesota, Toronto, Kansas City, Oakland, and Chicago. But the greatest save of all, we're going to have Liam Hendriks around for at least a while longer as he has overcome non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And, you know, so many people in this country fight cancer, battle cancer bravely. Some succumb to it. It is one of the most hideous diseases that man has ever known. There are so many varying types of it. I don't think there's a single person within the sound of my voice tonight that hasn't in some way, and if it hasn't impacted you, man, you are one of the lucky ones. It has impacted virtually everybody that I know. It's impacted my own life, you know, in terms of people I know that have battled cancer. I hope you never have to go through it if you haven't. And congratulations to Liam Hendriks. Very, very nice story to wrap up the show tonight. Speaking of baseball, by the way, I think everything is now final. Mets beat the Giants in the late slate 9-4. It was San Diego 7, Arizona 5. Fernando Tatis Jr. made his return to Major League Baseball. He went 0 for 5 with 2 strikeouts. Xander Bogaerts, by the way, hitting .350 through the first 21 games for the Padres this year. Think that signing's working out well? Yeah, I'd say so. He's about the only one hitting right now for the Padres, though. I said they're 10-11. It's because nobody's hitting on that team. They're struggling to get offense. Diamondbacks dropped to 11-5 with the loss. All right, so that's going to wrap it up for us tonight. We're back with you tomorrow. 3 more NBA playoff games on the slate for tomorrow, including the Knicks and the Cleveland Cavaliers, which ought to be very entertaining. That series tied up at a game apiece. Like I said, there's 3 series you really got an eye on right now. Knicks, Cavaliers, Warriors, Kings, Lakers, and Grizzlies. Those are the 3 series that really have everybody's attention. Tomorrow, Celtics and Hawks. That's the 7 p.m. Eastern game. Knicks and Cavaliers get started late for New York anyway. That game at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, and that'll be followed by the Nuggets and T-Wolves in Minneapolis. That game starts at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. So a bunch of late starts in some weird places tomorrow night, unless you're talking about the Celtics and the Hawks. Nice job, Justin Barbosa, producing and engineering it in Houston tonight. If you missed anything from the show, make sure to check out the podcast, the Cash In with Jason Page podcast, available wherever you get your podcasts. We'll do it again one more time this week. Catch you back here, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific, for the Cash In on SportsMap Radio. I'm Jason Page. Thanks for listening and watching. Bye! Justin, have a good night, man. Are you on tomorrow or no? Okay, cool. Have a good night. For those of you watching on the video side, thanks for checking us out. I'll catch you back here tomorrow night, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. I got to go walk a very anxious dog. And I'll see you all back here at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific on Friday. Lots of playoff basketball and a whole bunch of other fun stuff to do. Everybody have a great night. Be safe. Talk to you all later. Bye.